All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over some optics, in particular Holosuns. Why I went with certain things, why I've stuck with Holosun so far, why I might be trying something else in the future. So first and foremost, Holosuns, in my opinion, are a budget-friendly optic. For the most part, it's a great quality. I generally don't step down much cheaper than a Holosun. I know, more and more as things progress, some companies are coming out there that are able to get cheaper, just as good quality. I actually have one in the works that's a little bit more budget friendly that I'm looking at, that's getting sent out to me, and I'll do a review on that, and do some comparisons to maybe to some of my Holosuns and what's comparative to that one. But regardless, as you see, these are three separate Holosuns optics that I have here, otherwise known as red dots or green dots in this case, because these are all green. And the reason why I stuck with green dots is because green dots supposedly have it's a little bit easier on the eyes if you have astigmatism, which I do have a slight one, which does make a difference when you're shooting. Regardless, the first one I bought was this 509T. This is their titanium version. This thing works great. All of these work great, actually. But this one I stuck with on the Walther because this is essentially, that's my war gun right there. Built tough, super reliable. I'm never gonna have any issues with it, almost guaranteed. And I won't get into it, but I'm not a big Glock fan, so I went with a Walther, which in my opinion is just as reliable. But regardless, just to verify with you guys, all of these are cleared, no brass. I'll just go through all of them real quick just to show you. Empty, no magazines. It's all completely empty, unloaded, no rounds next to me. Regardless, Walther PDP, this Holosun 509T, and actually probably the easiest thing you can see, it's dirty, just to show you what the optic looks like. If I can get that to adjust. There we go. It's a 2 MOA dot with a 32 MOA reticle. The donut of death, as some people call it. Very simple, straight to it. Titanium. I went with the titanium instead of the aluminum because, as I said, I want to be able to beat the crap out of this gun with this optic and never have any issues. And I'm almost guaranteed to get there with this. I'm not super aggressive on my guns. I'm not brutal. I'm not someone that throws them in the dirt, kicks them around, destroys them. That's not really my style, but this optic will put up with it if I do decide to do it. Pretty good build quality on these ones. I must say, Holosun's pretty good. Most people know them. This one over here, the next one, is actually, this is the 507C. Here we go. That's your reticle right here. These two, comparative to this one, they are the ACSS Vulcan reticle, which there's some really good pros to that style of reticle, which I'll get into in a minute. But just to show this one off, it's a little bit bigger of a window. This is great for quick acquisition. Good for, you could throw it in for some competition, stuff like that. Still a good size. Side operating battery. I'm a big fan of the battery on the side. I don't have to remove my optic to replace the battery, which is preferred in my opinion because I don't have to reside it when I go to replace the battery every year. Moving on to the 507K, a little bit smaller, or sorry, no, 507K, which is a little bit smaller than the C. As you notice, it is considerably smaller, but the 507C does have the solar panel on the top. So there's some pros to that as well. The window is a little bit smaller on the 507K, but it's great for concealability. It's a lot easier to conceal something like this optic size than compared to this optic size, as well as it's thinner, a little bit lighter. So that's essentially why I have these. These guns are designed, this is essentially what would be considered a duty pistol. Heavy duty, not going to run into any issues. The X5, that's more of a competition, fun shooter, great optic for that. And then the macro, small, concealability, great for everyday carry. Just to get into a little bit, of the ACSS reticles. Just to show you this one, this is on the X macro. It has the same exact setup as the 507C with the ACSS, but instead of a solid um, larger reticle, which I believe is like a 250 MOA, if I remember correctly. As you can see, this one has a solid circle and this one has a dotted circle. Really, there isn't too much preference. I think for me, I kind of prefer the solid reticle one, but at the end of the day, there really isn't too much difference on those. But all three of these optics are great choices. The 509 are great because it's enclosed. You don't have to worry about dust. You don't have to worry about cleaning the optic. It's ready to go. I know there's some concerns of people where the lenses will fog up on them. I haven't had any issues on this one. And I haven't really heard of very many people having issues with the 509T with having fogged up lenses. The downside on having an open emitter, I'll turn this around. You might be able to see it. That line where you can kind of see that green dot right in the center of the camera, I'll try to point at it right here at the tip of my finger. That is your emitter. So that's projecting onto your glass down here, and then you can go back and see on that glass. The downside is you can get dirt, you can get snow, mud, any kind of things floating around, lint in your pocket. Anything can get into that emitter. So in a high stress situation, you present your firearm and you don't see your red dot or your green dot in this case. Often case because you have dirt or something blocking your reticle. So you bring it, blow it out. Obviously not something you want to be doing in a high stress situation. So that's the downside to having an open emitter. The closed emitter, as you can see, completely enclosed, glass on the front, glass on the back. Nothing is going to block that emitter unless you are covering your thing with your hand or having something covering your lenses. So that's a really good pro to a closed emitter over an open emitter. My personal preference, I like open emitters just because the simplicity of them, and they're generally cheaper. I don't remember the exact costs of these, but I do know the closed emitter is the most expensive, but it's also the most durable. So everyday carry, everyday shoot, an open emitter is great because of the simplicity and affordability of it. But if you want something that's rugged, that's going to last, you're not going to have any issues, no matter what you're doing with it, whether you're shooting in the dirt or in the mud or in the water, shooting it out in the creek, you're not going to run into as many issues with a closed emitter. But as I said, all three of these are great optics. I haven't had a single issue with any of these. Every single optic I'd probably put somewhere near more or less on all of them, but I mean, for sure, over 2,000 rounds on every single one of these pistols, easily. And I have not had any issues with the optic, no issues on the zero. They've held tight. Again, I'm not someone that goes around abusing the optics, smacking them on trees or throwing them on the ground. So I'm not going to run into your common issues, but I am extremely comfortable with my 509T. When I'm racking this one, I like never use my hand, or sometimes I'll pull with the optic like this, but I'll usually put it up against the table and just push on the table when I'm racking the firearm. So I'm a little bit more abusive on this one. But again, as I said, that's what the 509T is intended for. That's why you want an enclosed emitter, and that's why I went with the titanium instead of the aluminum one. Either way, guys, Holosun's highly recommended. I am a big fan of the ACSS Vulcan reticles. This one in particular, the 507C or 507C. Here we go. Some bigger pictures of the reticle. It actually has the V, the Vulcan reticle, which if you pause it there, you can kind of see it gives you some opportunity, what your actual hold is if you're shooting at different distances. These other ones, this one does. This ACSS kind of shows you your optics. Pretty much the same thing, just not the V reticle, just a simple dot in the center. All of these are great optics. I am a big fan of the ACSS reticles. And a big reason for it is as soon as you present it, you know, you kind of like as it's shown in this photo, you won't see the larger circle when you're looking right on the dot. But when you present with it, as you're coming up, you're going to see this outer optic. And that's going to essentially, it's almost natural instinct. It points you to where you need to reposition your firearm. That way you can have a perfect, you know, sight picture of your dot. So for beginners, I highly recommend something like the ACSS reticles, just because it's great for training, great for, you know, learning where you need to present your firearm to get quick acquisition of your red dots. Needless to say, guys, Holosun's a great company. I love their optics, one way or another. They're great stuff. I've never had any issues with their optics. As I said previously, there's another company that's reached out to me that I'm going to look into and do a review on one of their optics. I try to be honest with stuff, but I'm going to be comparing it to some Holosuns. Even though it is a cheaper optic, I'm still going to compare it to something because this is what I would trust myself with, trust my life with, is a Holosun. You know, as I do because this is my everyday carry. But I want to make sure it's something that will, you know, it's going to last. It'll work in high stress situations. It's not going to fail on me. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this content, hit a like, subscribe, give me a comment what you guys think is a better optic than the Holosun. If you want to trash me and go with your Triticons or any other optic out there, go ahead. I'm a big fan of Holosun. Um, all of these were bought with my own money. None of this is sponsored. So Holosun, if you want to reach out, go ahead. Um, Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and hope you enjoyed the video.